truth gets justice. Not every name makes the headlines, but here we don't look away. We ask the hard questions, follow the silence, and speak for those who no longer can. This is White Eyes Media. Tamla Horsford was a mother of 5, a wife, a friend. She wasn't just a name, she was light. She was laughter. She was the kind of person who brought her own energy into a room, the kind of woman who made friends quickly and fiercely. Born in the Caribbean and raised in Florida, Tamla eventually settled in Cumming, Georgia, a quiet, mostly white suburb in Forsyth County. There, she was known as Tam to the people who loved her. She worked hard, stayed loyal to her family, and poured herself into being a great mom. She was active at her kids' school, loved football Sundays, and her Instagram was full of smiling selfies, snapshots of her boys, and playful videos of everyday joy. By all accounts, she was living the kind of life most people chase. Who would ever think a slumber party would change all of that? On the evening of November 3rd, 2018, Tamla Horsford headed to what was supposed to be a simple birthday slumber party. It was hosted by Jean Myers, a white woman who, like Tamla, was part of a circle of football moms whose sons played together in the same youth league. The gathering took place in Cumming, Georgia, at Jean's home in a quiet, upscale subdivision in Forsyth County. There were 7 women invited for the overnight stay and 3 men who stopped by at various points in the evening. Everyone there was white, except for Tamla. The women drank, they watched a football game, they played Cards Against Humanity, they danced, laughed, and posed for photos. At some point, Tamla changed into a comfy white onesie covered in paw prints. It would be the last outfit she'd ever wear. By 1:30 a.m., most of the guests had gone to bed. Tamla stayed up, reportedly to have one last smoke and FaceTime her family. According to reports, she was seen walking around the house and eating a bowl of gumbo. At 7:45 a.m. the next morning, one of the homeowner's aunts, Madeline Lombardi, looked out the window and saw a body in the backyard, face down and motionless. It was Tamla. She had fallen from the second-floor balcony, about 14 feet high, or so the story goes. At 8:59 a.m., Jean's boyfriend, Jose Barrera, called 911. The audio is chilling. He tells the dispatcher, "She's not moving. She's not breathing. There's a small cut on her wrist. She's stiff." He also casually mentions that she had been drinking heavily and must have fallen. From the very beginning, the tone of the 911 call was off, calm, almost rehearsed. Tamla's family would later point to this call as one of many red flags. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office arrived on the scene, took statements from the people inside the house, and declared Tamla's death an accident, the result of a fall caused by high levels of alcohol, THC, and Xanax in her system. But that explanation never sat right. Tamla was found face down in the grass with cuts and abrasions on her body, including a large bump to the head, a dislocated wrist, and injuries consistent with defensive wounds. She also had no broken neck or spine, which is common in high-impact falls. Even more unsettling, no one heard anything, no scream, no thud, no panic. A woman had allegedly fallen off a second-floor balcony, face first into the backyard, and no one noticed. The partygoers stayed quiet, and the investigation? It was rushed. Police never tested the drinks in the home for drugs. They allowed key individuals to leave before collecting thorough statements. And days later, Jose Barrera, the man who called 911, was fired from his job as a court officer for using police databases to look up the case while off duty. Still, despite all of that, the death was ruled accidental, but Tamla's family knew better. From the moment authorities ruled Tamla Horsford's death an accident, her family knew something wasn't right. Her husband, Leander Horsford, and her sons were devastated. But beyond the grief, there was a burning frustration, a sense that Tamla had been written off, that her death was being swept aside without the full truth being told. Her best friend, Michelle Graves, became one of the loudest voices calling for answers. She posted about Tamla's case online, highlighting the inconsistencies in the investigation and it quickly gained traction. Tamla's family pointed to details that just didn't add up. Why were there multiple blunt force injuries? Why were her wrists dislocated and her body face down with no sign of bracing for the fall? Why was Jose Barrera, the boyfriend of the homeowner, using his job as a court officer to access sealed police reports? And why did it take public pressure for anyone to even look twice? Even Tamla's toxicology report raised questions. While it showed alcohol, THC, and a small amount of Xanax, her family said she wasn't known to take pills. The combo of substances could have been slipped into her drink, but police never tested for that. As online awareness grew, so did the demands for justice. By 2020, in the wake of George Floyd's murder, Tamla's story resurfaced across social media. Hashtags like Justice for Tamla, Say Her Name, and hashtag Tamla Horsford spread fast. Celebrities and public figures amplified her name. T.I., 50 Cent, Gabrielle Union, and Kim Kardashian all posted about her death, urging followers to demand a real investigation. Facing mounting public pressure, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation (GBI) finally reopened the case, but many felt it was too little, too late. The GBI ultimately concluded that there was no foul play, backing up the original accidental death ruling. But for many watching, especially Tamla's loved ones, that answer was hollow. Her case has since become symbolic, not just of racial injustice, but of how Black women are so often ignored, even in death. Tamla was the only Black woman at that slumber party, and to this day, not one of the other attendees has spoken publicly about what really happened that night. The silence, it's deafening. And for her family, the fight continues, not just for Tamla, but for every woman who didn't make it home. By 2020, Tamla Horsford's name had become a rallying cry. Her face, once only known in her community, now sat on protest signs. Her name was shouted in the streets, along with those of Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, Corinne Gaines, and others who were Black, female, and gone too soon under mysterious or violent circumstances. Tamla's case struck a particular nerve because this wasn't a traffic stop. This wasn't a no-knock warrant. This was a slumber party. A woman, a mother of 5, dies surrounded by so-called friends, and no one hears a thing. Vigils were held outside the Forsyth County Courthouse. People placed candles, posters, and flowers beneath her photo, and beneath them a single question: what really happened to Tamla? Protesters demanded an independent investigation, charges for anyone who tampered with evidence, transparency from the GBI and Forsyth County. Across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, people shared Tamla's story. There seems to be a pattern, a premature explanation, a lack of accountability, silence from those who were there. Even after the GBI announced no foul play, critics weren't satisfied. Their response: if there's nothing to hide, why are there so many unanswered questions? And that brings us to you, the viewer. Here's where we want to hear from you directly. Do you believe Tamla Horsford's death was truly an accident? Do you think the authorities were too quick to close the case? What do you think happened that night? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you or someone you know was close to this story, we want to hear from you, because silence may protect the powerful, but voices like yours, they can shift everything. Tamla Horsford was more than a hashtag. She was a mother, a wife, a sister, a friend, and her story still doesn't sit right. Here at Wide Eyes Media, we refuse to look away. We speak names that others forget. We ask the questions no one wants to answer. And we will continue to follow Tamla's case. Every lead, every development, until truth has its turn to speak. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay safe and please keep your eyes wide.